Hello, everyone. I think I'm live already. I'm just going to wait a bit so that my phone connects to the live, and then we'll get started. Let's see, live by now. Yes, let me put down the volume. Okay. So, hello, everyone, and so we're back for another session on the Grand Multi-literacy event, and this time it's a session again on my own. So I have done two yesterday, one on mindset and one on how we can teach our children when we are lacking time. And today it's, I think, the topic I'm the most passionate about. It's about how we can make reading and writing relevant and purposeful for our children and students. So for those of you who don't know, I am a French and Spanish teacher as well. I teach foreign languages in a secondary school in London, so to teenagers. And I am also raising my own children with so 3 languages, but we taught them French and Korean, so to read and write in French and Korean. So I have this, but I try to make everything purposeful and relevant, whether it's for my children or for my students. So if you have any question about either of these, I'm more than happy to answer. As yesterday, I have a few ideas jotted down, but I have my eye on the comments. So if you have any question, don't hesitate, and I'll be more than happy to answer. So during this event, we have heard a lot about the importance of motivation and that our children needed to enjoy reading and writing. And too often, reading and writing, especially when it comes to the home language, can look like extra work. I certainly felt like that when I was a child. It's like we are working on, it's not said it's literacy, but we have to do homework, etc. When our friends might be outside playing football. So it feels like extra work. And children can also be wondering, again, it was the case for me, but as you have heard from other speakers, it was the same for them as well. But we can wonder why we need to put so much effort into something that is useless or that appears useless at the time. So we addressed this especially in the session on Chinese with April Wu yesterday, the session on Japanese with Kaori Horike, and this morning with Hilisa, who has community, how is it called? Like a Saturday school, community center, that was the term she used, yeah. And she built it with the thought, with the first question she had in mind to start creating everything is, what can we do so that children want to come and explore the Greek heritage and language? I really recommend it, especially if you are thinking of sending your children to a Saturday school, or if you own a Saturday school. It was really insightful. So yeah, feel free to watch it. And out of all of this and what other speakers have said, so the key is to see things from the child's or the children's or students' point of view, because we want them to be able to read and write in our home languages for various reasons. It can be because we think that it's going to help them strengthen their knowledge of our home language, or it could be because we know that it's going to be helping them in the future, whether it's academically or job-wise. But we have all these plans. We think literacy is going to be a key thing in their education, whether in the future or now. But that's our goal. So there are two things to keep in mind, and that's first, that they don't know it, especially when they're like 5 years old and you want to start teaching them, but why would they? Like, for example, for me, as I often mention, when I was speaking Japanese, it helped me connect with my family. When I went to Japan, it helped me feel at ease in the country, understanding what was around, etc. So watching TV, speaking with my friends, it was all like just benefits. Reading and writing, I couldn't really see the benefits. It was an extra plus, and I could only see it as an extra plus. So speaking would give me that much, and being able to read and write that much benefit. So I didn't know why I had to, I knew, but I didn't see the point of putting so much effort. And so, as I said, our children don't know all the benefits. And if they know, they're aware of it. So, for example, I'm going to take the example of my students who, in England, so I live in England, I'm teaching in a school in England. In England, in most schools, it's compulsory to take a language. So you study for 3 years, and if you want to drop it afterwards, in many schools, you can do it. And it's the case in my school. But there are still loads of students who take a language as a subject because it looks good on the CV. And they are told this by their parents, by maybe other teachers. So they think it's true, and they probably they're told it's really true because of whatever. But the reward is so far away. Like being able to use that language is so far away. There's hypothetical. It might never happen. And for reading and writing, it's the same for our children and students. So if it's too far away, it's hypothetical. It doesn't really act as a motivator. And so also, by the way, if you grew up in bilingual yourself, or you have your children growing up bilingual, and you just let me know in the comments what was your experience. So how you saw literacy when you were a child, or how your children are seeing literacy right now. And yeah, and hopefully you get a few things out of this session. I'm going to show you a couple of activities, talk about a few concrete things, by explaining about the thinking behind as well, how we can make things relevant and purposeful for our children and students. So one thing I want to say as well is that when our children are pushing back, or students are pushing back, it's completely natural. And we do exactly the same. If you take as an example, we can see it in the news every year, it's how many people decide to take a New Year's resolution, but then drop it after a few weeks or a month. It's because it demands a lot of effort, and compared to the reward, it might be like not very balanced. You put a lot of effort, but the reward is that much, or you don't see the reward straight away, so you don't really feel the reward. And yeah, so there's this imbalance between reward and effort, and the fact that it's a bit too far in the future. So that's going to be something to keep in mind as well when we're trying to make reading, writing relevant and purposeful. But so how can we do that? So when I say we need to make it relevant and purposeful, so purposeful is, for example, thinking, why would they want to read and write? So what is it for? It's not because it helps them to be more accurate. That's our goal. We need to think from their point of view. So it could be because they can have fun. So reading brings them fun. So it's like when you read a book and you're enjoying it, because you can read, you're able to enjoy this. So that's going to be the reward. But I'm going to talk about what to do at the beginning, because the beginning is always the hardest. So it could be because it helps them take part in a game. So Amanda, who is an author I've done an interview with, if you look in the playlist of the Grand Multi-literacy event, it's a blue background. So if you're watching Amanda's interview, she talks about this as well, how she helped her son being more engaged with Chinese reading and writing. Yeah, so we can do that by making as a game, so they can take part in the game if they read and write. It could also be because it is useful in real life. So yesterday in the session with Chinese, with April Wu, sorry, so she talked about creating a shopping list. So when you learn about food, instead of just keeping it in the textbook or in your book, like as just work, use it in real life. So if you have a shopping list and you try to remember what you need to go and buy, that's going to be relevant. But if you check on write, you can be writing. For them, it's going to be recognizing the character. You can of course draw things, etc. At home, so we do that with French and Korean with our children. And we've used this thing about the shopping list. So we had on our fridge a sheet with all the things that they generally want us to buy. So it could be biscuits and things like that, or it could be fruit. Our sons like fruit quite a lot. But we would write the words in French or Korean with a picture next to it to show what it was. And so they say, oh, can you buy this next time when we go shopping? Say, oh yeah, put it on the shopping list. And they would need to write and add it to the list. And when they did it, they could look at the example on the fridge. I'm going to talk about this as well, the help we can provide our children to support them, because that's going to be helpful as well to motivate them. And when it comes to making it relevant, it's like the reward they get is something they enjoy, and it's immediate or quite rapid to come. If it's too long, like I said, with the New Year's resolution, you don't have the patience as an adult, so imagine as a child, to carry on. So it's good to try to create rewards that arrive quite soon after the effort. And that's going to make it more relevant, more real for our children. And anything that is linked to their interest or them directly is powerful as well. So if you watch the interview with Adam Beck, so another author interview, so again with the blue background in the multi-literacy event playlist, he talked about how he motivated his children to read in English. So in his family, English was a minority language. So in English, by writing stories with his children as the heroes and him as a bad guy. So he would write part of the story and on a cliffhanger, so they would want to read. But because it was personalized, it was even more relevant to them. So of course, there are loads of ways to do that. But today I'm going to share with you a few examples to make it clear. And with children, what I found the most useful is games. And also I wrote a whole book on games. So if you're interested, you can go and check it out. I'm going to put the link in the description. There is also this book from Uta Lima and Ana Elisa Miranda, with just games to help you make reading, writing more purposeful. By the way, this book is free today as a ebook on Amazon, I believe. You can check out just after this session. I believe it's free today, so go check it out. And if it's not, she's offering one copy, or they are offering one copy as a giveaway. So yeah, so make sure you enter the giveaway. So I'm going to give you a few examples to explain all of that concretely. So one example that I think that speaks very easy to many people is a game. Where is it? You're going to recognize it quickly. So I'm showing it on screen because it's easier for you to see. Yeah. So I guess you can see it. Let me check. So it's the memory game, and I'm just waiting to see if it's really appearing on the screen. So it's the memory game. And so normally, typically for the memory game, you have to find a pair of cards. So two similar images. So for example, here you have one hidden, but you have two images of a fox. But what you can do to make it more relevant is to help them read and write is to change one of the cards. So I don't know if you can see, because I think on the screen, my image is covering this, but you can have the word fox. So you have the image of a fox and the word fox. And then what you can do, so you can put on one side all the pictures, on the other side all the words, and you can say, okay, what is the right combination? So you can go, oh, dog, no, so you need to cover back the cards. Then again, you show, okay, maybe A and 6 notes. So your child will need to write cat. Okay, so it's not matching. So it doesn't work. What else? So you turn them back again normally in the game. I'm not doing it here, but okay. So fox, A, I need to find fox, ox. Yeah, okay. So that's the match. And you can see that way. So reading becomes purposeful. So because you read, you're able to play the game, and then you can see if the pair is matching. So, and then why is it relevant? Because if you don't read, if you can't play the game, and so it helps you play the game. And if you want to make it even more enjoyable, you can take family members, which makes it relevant. So we've done that with Korean, with our sons, with family members, so us and other names, but also objects, etc. My youngest, he loved Pokemon. He was starting to read, so we used that to help him, especially with English. So yeah, use their interest. And so our goal, one thing I want to mention is that our goal is for them to read, but for them, the goal is to play. So they play, and the consequence happens to be that they are practicing their reading. So this is one thing to keep in mind as well. So we might have our own goal, but we can make it the consequence so that they don't need to work for that. They work for their goal, which is to play the game. And by chance, this leads to them reaching the goal we are setting actually. Another game that I'm going to talk about is a game that Risa talked about this morning, that she does with her students or the children at her center. Is the bowling game. So here you can see it's with Korean letters when we're just starting to teach Korean. So with combinations of vowels and consonants. And the game is a bowling. So you just throw a tennis ball and loads of cups are going to fall. And your child is going to read what's inside the cup. But again, why would they read? What's fun for them is just to throw the ball and see the cups fall. So to make it purposeful, so why would they need or want to read? You can make the rule that for each word they can read, they gain a point. So it's not just, so it's fun, and then they gain the point. So that's why they're going to put the extra effort, is to gain the point. If you want to do with longer texts, an activity that I'm talking as well about in my book is that's not true. So that's the title of the activity. That's not true. You write a short text, depends how much you want your child to read by a short text, and make it about them. But include some errors, mistakes, things that they're going to say, that's not true. It could be, for example, I have two sons. I could have the name of my eldest and say, so my older brother did this and that. And he's going to say, I don't have an older brother, I have a younger brother. So he's going to spot the mistakes and he's going to want to correct it. So there's a bit of writing as well. But it makes it all, they would want to find out what's written, because it's loads of nonsense as well. So they would find it funny, and that's why you can, that's how you can cook them into trying to read more of the text. So there is it's not just reading for the sake of it, it's reading to find out what silly things that he included in the text. And we need to think about, so why they would want to read. And one thing to keep in mind is we should let them use all the help they need when learning. So I talked about the bowling game and other games. Oh, sorry, I'm going to stop the sharing. Yeah, okay, it's better. Yes, you can see me better. But so when we what was I saying? Ah, yeah, the help. So giving them access to help. One thing, by the way, many people still call it cheat sheets. I prefer calling them help sheets because help is a lot more, how would you say, a lot more positive. It's here to help them to achieve something. If it's cheating, they're not supposed to be doing it, but they're doing it anyway. So in a way, there is a sense of guilt, which, in my opinion, doesn't help with creating a positive learning experience. So I call them help sheets, and whenever they need to use it, they use it. So I talked about the shopping list before. So whenever they wanted to add something, it was on the fridge, and they could just copy and add it until they were comfortable and they knew the spelling, and then they would just write it on their own. And then if there was something new that didn't know how to read, I could write it for them or show them wherever on a pack we have. They want the same thing, I can show the pack. And then I would add it on the list with the image, so they can use it the next time. With the bowling game that I just showed, it's the same. So when it was Korean at the beginning, it was quite an effort to even decipher one syllable. So there would be one consonant, one vowel, or one consonant, vowel, and another consonant. But it was quite tricky. So I left the sheet, the help sheet. I made a whole video on this, one of the first few videos I made on my channel. You can check it out. But yeah, he would look at it and read the things and was able to gain the points for the bowling game. So the fact that he was using this help consolidated his learning. That's my aim. I want him to be able to consolidate his learning. But for him, it helps him get a point. So again, his aim, his goal is to get the point. My goal is to reinforce his learning. So I let him use that. And another thing that I think is really important when we're teaching our children is to realize that we're not always testing them. We were helping them to get to a point, and at some point, yeah, we can test them. But when it's the learning process, we should let them use any help they need. So it helps them consolidate. The more they want to go back to that, the more it's going to be consolidated. And if, for example, you think, okay, they're not putting any effort, they're just looking at it, which I guess can happen, you can include a rule. And I think that's why games are so powerful, because when it's a game, you can include rules, and the group rules are making things relevant to our children. Like, okay, I'm going to do it that way because, and we can help them build up on their knowledge and practice reading, writing very easily. Another thing I would like to mention is, because we're talking about making it relevant, is first to that Veronica mentioned this morning, is to let our children read once they start being able to read, but read whatever they want, and not to push them towards things that are harder or a level above. They're going to get there naturally once they're able to reach that level. And as I said before, when it's our home language, we have the opportunity, the chance to not have to follow a certain rhythm like our children have to do when they're in school, because they're with the whole class and the teacher can differentiate up to a certain level, but they can't really wait that much or go too fast. But with our home language, if we teach just our children That's the real benefit. And another thing I wanted to mention, I mentioned it also yesterday, it's about comic books, but today I'm going to talk about it regarding how it can be relevant, it can make reading relevant and purposeful. So I just took one of my son's favorite comic book series in Korean, so it's Hunhan Namme. And this is really silly. If you have Korean as one of your languages and you don't know this, definitely check this out. It's going to make your child love reading. It's not meant to read, by the way. It's just a normal comic book. But so I'm going to take any page. So just you can see it's silly things. So it's a brother and a sister doing silly things, and you can see one thing that's very attractive is all these things that makes the action. Well, there are a lot of emotions, actions, like you can imagine in Korean, Japanese, how to say, shows that are a bit silly. And what I love about comic books is how much it can help children to go step by step in their reading. So when I say step by step, is because when you look at this, even if you don't read Korean, you can guess more or less what's happening. And just by the pictures, and that's what our children are doing. But you have all these pictures, you want to get to know fully the story. So you're going to want to read. And an example I often take is the example of a delicious cake. So for example, I love strawberry cheesecake. So imagine you put in front of me a delicious strawberry cheesecake. If I can see it, it looks delicious. If I can touch it and taste it, it's even better. And then if I taste it and I like it, I might eat even more. But when you have a book that's just text, so let's say, for example, a novel with very little, very few images, it's like if you presented to your child a recipe of the cake. They are not going to be able to imagine as well, because it takes time to be able to read. But with the cake just in front of you, it's really immediate. So with images, it's immediate. You have most of the things. And when you start being able to read, it's like if you're tasting it. And if you like it, if you find it funny, you're going to want to read more and more and more. And so one of the first things that I realized my sons were reading were all the onomatopoeia. So you can see some here, here. So they're big, just a few, it's like a few words. It's often repeated. So it's quite easy to read, but it makes the story come to life. So these, so this was the first step, and then they can read shorter things. By little, they're going to complete more the story. And of course, you can read with them, so they know the story. But when they're going to be looking at it, I promise you, they're going to start reading them, like little by little. And so it can get from the point where they are just looking at pictures to when they're starting to read the onomatopoeia, to small things written in short, small speech bubbles, to reading the whole thing. And when they are able to read it, and if they're interested in things that have longer text, they're going to have enough practice. But this is like a really quick win, like to read comic books. So again, as I was saying before, with the to make it relevant, we need to make it relevant now. So not delay the gratification, but give it now, so that they can enjoy it. Yeah. So that was my point about comic books. Was there anything else I wanted to say? Oh yes, another thing that I love about comic books is that they're for all ages. So you can find some for very young children, some for teenagers, some for adults as well. So whatever your level, you can access this. Then, of course, you need to understand the vocabulary. And maybe in comic books for adults, you're going to have things that are a bit more complex. But at least the text is short. And you can, so if you don't understand the word, it takes less effort to try to understand. And the images are there to help you. So I would say that, so that's something, for example, that I really enjoyed when I was a teenager, was to read manga because it helped me access books that I loved that had less text. So I really liked and still love sci-fi. I can read sci-fi novels in English or French, etc. But in Japanese, I remember when my aunt bought me sci-fi novels that were they were for 2 grades younger than me. It was still too difficult, mainly because I couldn't decipher all the characters, and also because there was technical vocabulary that's in sci-fi. It's a lot of technology often, so that made it a bit more difficult, and I never really read these novels, uh, even if they looked very interesting from the cover and from what I knew about them, but I never read them. What I read on the other side, on the other hand, are the manga, so comic books in Japanese, because I could access things that were for my age. One last thing I could mention is to not put our language as a criteria to reduce our choices. So I mentioned that as well in my previous session, but for example, when you're choosing a book, don't say we're going to read a book in French, or which French book do you want to read, or whatever your home language is. Just go by genre. So it could be, for example, uh, fairy tales. It could be about dinosaurs, about robots, about car songs, etc. Anything. And then if you have some in more than one languages, then the language makes it helps them access more books. So the language is helping them access more, and that's going to be motivating for them. But I say that, but there are few areas where I specify the language. That's when, for example, they know we're going to work on literacy. So I make it very fun, etc. But they know it's to practice as well. So it has to be in French or Korean if it's with my wife. And another time when I restrict things with the language is when I say they can buy books. So whatever I say, I'm going to buy any book they want. So it's free basically for them, whatever book they want, if it's in French. But if it's in English, it's from their pocket money. But I don't say it's because it's in French or in English. I don't say it's because I want you to read in French. I say it's because English books, you can have access to them anywhere. In school, you have a library. We go to a library several times a week. So they have access very easily to English books. However, so I'm saying that's bonus. If you want to have it physically at home for you, fine, but you need to buy with your pocket money. However, if it's in French, I'm going to buy because they don't have the choice. They can't really go in the library and find French books. So that's why I restricted with the language just for this. But I don't say it's because of the language. It's more because it's not accessible easily. Okay, so I hope these examples I gave you and these little tips I gave you help you understand a bit better how you can make languages relevant and purposeful for your children or your students. We don't have any questions, but if you have any question, or if you want to comment after, if you're catching it after, I'm more than happy to comment as well to answer your questions. We're going to have a session on Arabic just after, so to talk about how we can teach Arabic, which is a diglossic language. So, which means that the languages that are spoken, so there are different forms of Arabic, is different than the Arabic that's written that you can read in books. And so we're going to see how we can overcome this challenge. And then a session that many of you were waiting for, a session with Dr. Cummins. That's going to be in about 2 hours, a bit less than 2 hours. So I'm going to hopefully see you there. And then there'll be a conclusion session live Just to celebrate the end, to summarize everything, if you would like to join, that would be great. Let me know what you took out of these sessions, what you enjoyed. And yeah, so I hope to see you in the next sessions as well. Bye, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the event. Bye.